24 November 2024 TD. In the middle of his sermon, Jakes' voice abruptly ceased as he slumped. 2.3 million people watched in horror as his eyes rolled back and his skin became grey. The doctor's discovery of the cause, however, was the real shock. The little-known tale of Bishop Jakes' struggle for survival and his reputation is now emerging as a $100 million lawsuit threatens his business, and ominous rumors circulate online. T.D. Jakes was born in South Charleston, West Virginia, on June 9, 1957. He grew up in a tiny, close-knit family with his parents, Ernest and Odeth Jakes. T.D. was the youngest of a family of 3. His father put forth a lot of effort and established a cleaning company that had over 40 employees. He cleaned grocery stores and the Capitol building in West Virginia. His mother taught sewing and cooking, among other household skills. She made sure all of her kids learnt these skills, and T.D. found them to be incredibly helpful later in life. As soon as T.D. was a little child and his family resided in the segregated neighborhood of Vandalia, racial tensions made the 1960s a difficult decade, but the Jakes house was constantly bustling with activity and learning. Life appeared to be going as usual, but when T.D. was just 10 years old, his father developed severe kidney illness. Over the following 6 years, T.D. assisted in caring for him. The family went through a difficult period, but T.D. learned from it a lot about compassion and suffering. During this period, he frequently remained in his room and preached to his stuffed animals as though they were a large congregation at church. Because he always had a Bible with him and enjoyed discussing God, he was known as Bible Boy. T.D., even as a child, he had a strong curiosity about God. He once discovered that although it seems to be motionless, the earth is constantly in motion when traveling with his father. He was moved by this and began to consider how God sometimes works in ways that are invisible to us. However, T.D.'s journey wasn't flawless. He experienced a period of time as a teenager when he lost his faith. When he began performing gospel songs at a celebration one evening, a significant event occurred. He fled the house because he felt the Holy Spirit so intensely. He was reminded of his purpose and brought back to God in that time. As soon as T.D., after fighting kidney disease for years, his father died when he was 16. For him, it was devastating. He became irritated and perplexed and began to doubt God. He had to look after his family at the same time. T.D. and his mother also became ill, quit high school to care for her, just 2 months before graduating. Life was difficult, but he persisted. He became stronger and more sensitive to the suffering of others as a result of this difficult period. He felt called to become a preacher during this trying time. He had uncertainties and was still in pain, but he knew that this was what God intended him to do. At the age of 23, T.D. made a significant move by founding his own church. With only 10 members, it was a modest storefront in Montgomery, West Virginia. The Greater Emmanuel Temple of Faith is what he termed it. Life wasn't easy back then. T.D. During the day, he supported his family and the church by working at a chemical company. Working as a DJ at a Christian radio station, his wife Sarita also provided a great deal of assistance. Despite having little money, they managed to make it work. Their church was modest and uncomplicated. T.D. even performed on the piano for the choir. He used to joke that they might have had 40 people on Easter Sunday if they included pregnant women and the dead. The church was small, but T.D. had a unique preaching style that resonated with listeners. He offered people hope while discussing issues that exist in real life. Slowly, the church expanded, and by 1983, T.D. had his first meeting. Even though there were just 80 attendees, it marked the beginning of something far larger. His inspiring words of hope and healing would eventually reach thousands of people, particularly ladies, in need of support. Bishop T.D. Jakes made a significant move in 1996. With only 50 families from his small congregation in West Virginia, he relocated to Dallas, Texas. He hosted the Potter's House's inaugural service in a rented space on July 28th. Even though there were just 300 attendees, it marked the start of something enormous. The church required a larger location since 5,000 people were attending in just 6 months. Jakes paid $3.2 million for a 28-acre property in December. It was once owned by another preacher, but the Potter's House presently resides there. It was an amazing first service. Every seat was occupied, and more than 8,000 people gathered, standing in overflow areas. Everyone was impacted by Jakes's stirring sermons and message of hope. The church was expanding so quickly by 1999 that a new sanctuary was constructed. It was enormous, costing $45 million and spanning 191,000 square feet. It could accommodate 8,000 people when it debuted in July 2000. Amazingly, the church only needed 4 years to pay off the loan. It was more than just a church at the Potter's House. It developed into a movement that altered people's lives everywhere. The Potter's House has incredible expansion. The church had 10,000 members by the end of 1997. There were 20,000 2 years later. Because so many people wanted to attend, they began hosting 3 Sunday sessions in 2000. More than 23,000 people arrived every week. People of many colors and backgrounds were drawn to the church, reflecting Dallas's diversity. With over 30,000 members by 2005, it was among the biggest churches in the United States. There was more to the Potter's House. It established campuses in additional locations, including as Denver and Fort Worth. In 2010, the church transmitted its service to several locations on New Year's Eve, reaching more than 40,000 people in a single night. By 2020, the church had campuses all over the United States, and 32,000 people attended on average each week. It rose to prominence as one of the nation's most significant churches. T.D. Jakes did more than expand the church. He became a filmmaker and a best-selling novelist. Woman, Thou Art Loosed, his debut book, was published in 1993. It spent 75 weeks on bestseller lists and sold over 3 million copies. After becoming well known as a writer thanks to that novel, Jakes published more than 40 books and sold over 20 million copies. On significant bestseller lists, a few of his works have peaked at number 1. He made a movie out of Woman, Thou Art Loosed, in 2004, and it brought in $6.8 million at the box office. His producing business, TD, other films produced by J Enterprises such as Heaven is for Real and Jumping the Broom brought in over $100 million globally. Additionally, Jakes had a television show called The Potter's Touch that was seen by millions of people worldwide. He even started a chat show of his own in 2016, and he later collaborated with Amazon to develop a streaming channel for his sermons and other material. Jakes created strong groups as well. Strong. TD. Beginning in 1995, Jakes Ministries gained notoriety for gatherings like Woman, Thou Art Loosed, which expanded into a sizable convention. In 2004, the Atlanta event drew more than 52,000 attendees. MegaFest, another event, increased local economies and attracted over 100,000 people. His commercial division, TD Films, Music, Books and Real Estate, are just a few of the numerous divisions that J Enterprises has grown into. The business revealed a $150 million real estate project in Atlanta in 2022. By 2023, TDJ Enterprises made more than $500 million annually. Time magazine termed TD in 2001, Jakes is the greatest preacher in America. This was a significant event. The article was published right after the 9/11 attacks when the country was in dire need of optimism. Jakes was commended by Time for his healing message and ability to connect with people. Jakes's books sold more copies, his TV audience expanded, and his fame increased as a result of the cover story. T.D. Jakes' accomplishments extend far beyond his role as a pastor. Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump have all consulted him. His leadership at the morning prayer session for Barack Obama's inauguration on January 20, 2009 was a significant event. Obama became the first black president of the United States, making this a historic day. Jakes continued after that. He also collaborated with foreign leaders such as King Abdullah of Jordan, President Rawlings of Ghana, and President Obasanjo of Nigeria. He was present when Pope Francis visited the United States in 2015 and at a White House luncheon for African leaders in 2014. This demonstrates how Jakes affects the world and ties politics and spirituality together. Jakes founded Conversations with America in 2015, focusing on important topics including criminal justice reform and racial inequity. In a 2016 live forum, he discussed these concepts with Chris Matthews of MSNBC. Numerous prominent individuals, such as journalists and members of Congress, attended this event, which was broadcast live to an audience of more than 1 million people. This demonstrates how Jakes solves practical issues by fusing action with spiritual leadership. Jakes is well known in Hollywood as well. His producing company has produced films that have brought in over $500 million globally. Jumping the Broom, which was one of his hits and the year's top comedy, was released in 2011. Another was Jennifer Garner's 2016 film, Miracles from Heaven. These films demonstrated that religious tales may be popular forms of entertainment. Even though it was brief, Jakes' 2016 talk show demonstrated his desire to reach a wider audience. Jakes is more than just a filmmaker. He puts a lot of effort into assisting others. He began the TD in 2020. $100 million will be raised for underprivileged communities by the Jakes Foundation. He and Wells Fargo collaborated to develop $1 billion in resources for these communities in 2023. $9 million have already been distributed to 16 groups before the beginning of 2024. The foundation provides employment training, financial education, and housing assistance. Additionally, Jakes founded TORI, the Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative, which has assisted more than 42,000 ex-offenders in starting over. This program gives people a second chance by providing housing, education, and job support. Jakes' church, the Potter's House, also makes a concerted effort to assist during difficult times. Jakes visited the disaster zones with President George W. Bush following Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Numerous calamities, including the 2010 Haitian earthquake, have benefited from the church's Mega Care initiative. They provided hundreds of meals to underprivileged families during COVID-19. Jakes is a savvy businessman as well. His real estate business enhances communities and constructs affordable housing. He collaborated with a Miami developer in 2023 to build family-friendly homes. In order to motivate others, he also conducts leadership programs and produces books, such as his best-selling Crushing. Thousands of people attend his International Leadership Summit to gain knowledge about leadership and business. For years, T.D. Jakes has been embroiled in discussions regarding his beliefs regarding the Trinity. In the late 1990s, he began to draw criticism for referring to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as manifestations rather than individuals. This led some theologians to infer that he subscribed to modalism, which holds that God is not three separate individuals, but rather merely one person manifesting in three different ways. When Jakes went to the Elephant Room conference in 2012, the issue erupted. He was directly questioned about his convictions by pastors Mark Driscoll and James MacDonald. Jakes' statement, "One God, three persons," seemed to support conventional wisdom. Then, citing a biblical concept, he said that he favored manifestations and disliked the word persons. People were perplexed by this. Critics were offended when his church's website continued to use the phrase manifestations. Some assumed he was merely trying to escape criticism, while others thought he was attempting to change his opinions. In 2016, a theologian stated that Jakes continued to utilize language that left people wondering about his true beliefs. As a result, he is still questioned by many conservative Christians. Jakes' teachings and preaching style have also drawn criticism from conventional churches. His affiliation with the Word of Faith movement, which many believe propagates false ideas, is a significant problem. Jakes reportedly told viewers at a Trinity Broadcasting Network fundraiser in 2001 that donating money would result in prosperity, excellent relationships, and wealth. This message ran counter to the conventional Christian belief that giving is an act of faith rather than a means of receiving something in return. Jakes made headlines in 2015 when he said that "You will never be broke again if you obeyed God." This message about money, according to critics, is dangerous and simplistic. Some claim that his sermons feel more like self-help than genuine preaching, since they frequently combine Bible lessons with inspirational speech. He startled the audience in 2007 when he spoke in tongues during a live sermon without providing an explanation, which is against the Bible. Jakes has also been charged for failing to discuss sin and repentance enough. He attacked white evangelicals in a 2019 interview for concentrating too much on abortion and same-sex marriage, while ignoring social justice. Many conservative figures were offended by this and began disparaging him as a fake instructor. The prosperity gospel is another issue surrounding Jakes. Many people think he preaches that success and fortune come from obedience and faith. This criticism is exacerbated by his lifestyle. According to stories from 2005, he wore fine outfits, drove expensive automobiles, and lived in a $1.7 million mansion, all of which detractors claimed went against Jesus' teachings on living simply. Jakes stated in one of his sermons that before one can achieve financial prosperity, one must first achieve spiritual prosperity. Critics claim that this makes a false connection between spiritual maturation and money. Jakes said in a 2017 tweet that you would never experience financial hardship again if you obeyed God. There have even been reports of churchgoers who donated all of their savings to the ministry and then experienced financial difficulties. Although he denies being a prosperity preacher, Jakes' actions, such as launching a program to train 1,000 millionaires, raise doubts about his intentions. Although he claims that his teachings are meant to assist people escape poverty, many people think his preaching distorts the gospel and serves his own interests at the expense of his followers. TD. Over the years, Jakes' opinions on LGBTQ+ topics have evolved significantly, drawing both acclaim and criticism. He coined the term brokenness in the early 2000s to describe homosexuality and suggested that it might be brought on by abuse or poor parenting. However, in a 2015 interview, he shocked many by stating that every church and homosexual individual was unique and that the LGBTQ+ community and the Black church could coexist. Jakes had to make it clear that he did not favor same-sex marriage because of the intense criticism from those who believed he did. He demonstrated a change in priorities in 2021 when he attacked white evangelical for concentrating too much on topics like same-sex marriage while neglecting poverty and justice. Jakes then said that traditional gender norms were out of date in a sermon from 2022. He didn't specifically address LGBTQ+ concerns, but this demonstrated his willingness to question conventional wisdom. These changes have caused conservatives to turn away from him, but progressives and LGBTQ+ proponents perceive him as growing more tolerant. The well-known Dallas pastor of the Potter's House, Bishop T.D. Jakes, was abruptly connected to a significant legal dispute involving music billionaire Sean Diddy Combs. Record producer Rodney Lill, Rod Jones, sued Combs on March 25, 2024, alleging he had committed horrible atrocity. On page 47 of the lawsuit, there was a claim that astonished people. It stated that when his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura accused him of abuse, Combs intended to utilize his relationship with Bishop Jakes to improve his public image. Everyone was taken aback by this reference to Jakes, which sparked speculation about his relationship with Combs. People began to speculate because the complaint didn't specify how Combs intended to implicate Jakes. Combs and Jakes had previously collaborated. Combs co-founded Revolt TV in 2021, and Jakes introduced his kingdom culture preaching to the network. Jakes went to Combs's lavish birthday celebration in 2022. People began to question whether their relationship was deeper than it appeared as a result of these incidents. According to the lawsuit, Combs believed Jakes could leverage his reputation as a well-liked pastor to help him avoid criticism from the public. Both the entertainment industry and the religious community were taken aback by this concept. When rumors began to circulate online in late 2023, the situation deteriorated. There was no evidence to support the assertions made in several posts that Jakes had gone to Combs' private gatherings. However, Jakes' reputation suffered greater harm as a result of the rumors. Jakes first kept quiet about the accusations, which piqued people's interest. He did, however, ultimately speak on April 15, 2024 in a Sunday sermon that was broadcast live to millions of people. He said that the charges were falsehoods intended to undermine his pastoral work. Jakes assured his audience that he was unrelated to Combs's alleged transgression. He vowed to defend his ministry and referred to the accusations as an attack. Jakes sued Rodney Lill Rod Jones for defamation a few days later, on April 18th, for $100 million. He said that the lawsuit's allegations were untrue and had seriously harmed his reputation. Additionally, Jakes targeted YouTube accounts that were circulating false information about him. He filed lawsuits on May 2, 2024, asking YouTube to identify the people behind them and demanding $50 million from each channel. He thought these channels were fabricating articles about him using artificial intelligence. Jakes continued after that. He established an independent board of reputable leaders and legal professionals to look into the claims in order to demonstrate that he had nothing to conceal. He allowed them complete access to his personal file and church documents. Jakes even underwent a lie detector exam to demonstrate his honesty, and on July 15, 2024, the results were released to the public. He also instituted new policies, such as annual background checks for key executives, and made the church's financial records publicly available. Bishop T.D. Jakes was preaching to a large gathering at the Potter's House in Dallas on November 24, 2024. More than 2.3 million people watched online, while more than 12,000 individuals attended in person. An hour or so had passed since he finished his sermon, Strength in Weakness. Then a startling event occurred. He uttered the words, "O Lord, my strength, my Redeemer, let them go in peace," at precisely 10:37 a.m. He paused. The entire church was silent when the microphone dropped out of his hand and hit the floor with a thunderous noise. Jakes began to shake violently. His towering, normally vivacious body was shaking, his complexion became grey, and his eyes rolled back. Every detail was captured on camera, and he gasped for air for almost a minute. The congregation was stunned. Loud prayers were heard, and some people even started speaking in tongues. Panic spread quickly. The stress caused 3 senior members to faint. Tragically, this occurred on the very day that Potter's House was established, which was 28 years ago. This made what should have been a day of celebration into one of terror. Quick action was taken by the church. Within seconds, cardiologist Dr. Mariah Stevenson, who was seated in the front row, hurried up to Jake. She began to shout directions and check his pulse. Security Chief Marcus Washington promptly triggered Operation Shepherd's staff, the church's emergency plan. As a result, 3,000 people were swiftly removed from the sanctuary to make place for aid. In less than 30 seconds, Usher Sarah Martinez dashed through the crowd to retrieve the AED. It took 4 minutes for paramedics to arrive. They got to work quickly, stabilizing Jakes with an IV and emergency medicine. An important factor was the church's helipad, which had only been put in a year and a half before. Jakes was transported to Methodist Dallas Medical Center by helicopter immediately after it arrived. Although the flight lasted only 7 minutes, to those who watched, every second seemed to drag on forever. Jakes had a lengthy 9-hour surgery at the hospital. He recovered quite quickly. He underwent 3 more surgeries and required 47 units of blood. He spent 17 days in the intensive care unit, receiving round-the-clock nursing care. Jakes made his first public appearance in a video call to his congregation on December 18th, a mere 24 days after the tragedy. His point was succinct, yet impactful. He informed them that he was recuperating from a potentially fatal situation. More than $4 million was raised for the hospital's heart unit alone from that video. He put a lot of effort into healing. Under the direction of one of the top physicians, he spent hours each day in physical therapy. He also adhered to a rigorous diet prescribed by dietitians and tried cutting-edge oxygen therapy. Jakes continued to be busy even after he recovered. Reborn: Finding Strength in Life's Valleys is his most recent book. 3 months after he dictated the entire book from his hospital bed, it was published and sold over 2 million copies in its first week. Jakes returned to the pulpit on New Year's Eve. 11 million people watched him online, while more than 18,000 people attended his live performance. Despite being leaner, he exuded vitality. The Comeback King, his sermon, was moving and motivational. The impact of his words caused many in the audience to cry as they listened. It was a moment of hope and victory, proving to everyone that you can get back up after the most difficult obstacle. TD in a small West Virginia church, Jakes met Sarita Jameson. TD, who was only 23 at the time, was a guest preacher in 1982. The 26-year-old Sarita was attracted to him right away. Their bond was so deep that they were married on May 29, 1982, just 6 months later. Their journey together started then, full of obstacles and love, as they entered a life in the spotlight. They created a family over the years and now have 5 kids: Thomas Jr., Jamar, Jermaine, Cora, and Sarah. Being a parent is never easy, but raising children in public has additional challenges. When their son Jermaine was arrested for indecent exposure in 2009, it made headline. The family persevered through a difficult period. Even in these situations, their children have performed well. Sarah, a well-known author, evangelist, and mother of 6, was born in 1988. Born in 1994, Thomas Jr. has established himself as a well-known media personality and music producer. In 1998, TD in Texas, Jakes relocated his ministry to Dallas. For the entire family, this was a significant shift. It was difficult for Sarita and the children to go to a new city and adapt to a new way of life, but they supported one another. By 2024, TD and Sarita and TD celebrated their 42nd wedding anniversary. Referring to Sarita as his soulmate, despite all the ups and downs, their love remained strong. TD Jakes was not solely concerned with his family. He was busier than most people could imagine due to his work. Although it began modestly in 1996, his church, the Potter's House, has since expanded to become a mega church with thousands of members. At its height, he wrote books, produced film, and released music in addition to preaching 4 lengthy services every weekend. He wrote more than 40 books, put out almost 20 albums, and made innumerable movies. By 2024. He gave more than 150 sermons during his trip to 16 different countries in 2018. He frequently missed significant family moments because of this type of work. In one interview, he acknowledged that he regretted not being present at his son's high school graduation. Despite having a full schedule, TD discovered methods to incorporate his family into his work. Sarita rose to prominence at their church as the head of the women's ministry. Sarah, their daughter, became a writer and pastor, following in his footsteps. However, they were still put to the test by life. Sarita underwent surgery in 2012 to treat a herniated disc. While she was recuperating, TD had to balance his job and taking care of her, which made him realize how crucial family is, no matter how hectic life becomes.